Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Alex Harriman, here with my co-host, Kelly Sarlo, and we are two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I know I shared this with you yesterday, but I had to repeat it for the listeners. My little guy had a date yesterday, 6 years old. It was his first date. And she came over to our house for a little play date. And he asked if he could wait outside in the rain with an umbrella so that she didn't have to get wet going from the car to the house. And I'm pretty sure my face melted from just like love and pride.
So that's super cute.
Oh.
What did the parents think when they dropped her off?
It just like, so cute. And she was just like, this is so thoughtful and so sweet of him. And I think like all of us, all the parents were just saying how like it's so nice that this little girl will not grow up thinking that boys pull your hair if they like you. Like he's just busting out chivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super cute.
I just love it. It's just so fun to watch.
That's awesome.
Anyway, irrelevant.
What do you got for a topic today?
Okay, so I wanted to talk about like this last ditch effort, right? So when we're approaching summer, people know that they want to kind of get summer ready, but it's kind of creeping up. It's now just around the corner. It might be a little too late to make the amount of progress that they had originally thought of. What can we do in those kind of last ditch efforts to get the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time? That's sort of what I wanted to chat about today to help empower people.
75 hard.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Okay, not 75 hard.
No.
Okay. For real then. We're talking for real. Do you want me to start or do you want to start?
I want you to start. Go.
Okay, so I agree with everything you're saying. Like it is too late to make the kind of progress you probably had hoped to make before summer. Now, that's super common. Like most people don't start thinking about making summer progress 3 months before summer. It's not on your radar. That's when you would have been able to make the biggest impact, probably, as if you had started 3 months before summer. But you can still make a shitload of progress. And throwing in the towel or getting the all or nothing thinking at this point is not going to put you in a better position. If you're like, oh, well, it's too late, I can't make progress, you will be worse off come summertime, which is going to make you feel worse. So can we make 3 months worth of progress? No, but we can make a month worth or 6 weeks worth, and we can still be better off than we are today, which is very, very important. Now, it's so easy to get in that all or nothing thinking and be like, oh, screw it, I'm not going to be where I want to be. But I promise you, being even a little bit further ahead than where you're at now will be worth it to you. And I don't think anybody listening to this would argue that. If you're like, if you really sit down and look at this, you would choose to be further ahead than where you are now as opposed to doing nothing. So the big message is like, get started. Now, the second part to this is that when you first start a new journey, a new health and fitness journey, you see your most immediate returns early on. So the first month of a 3-month journey is where you're going to see a lot of the bloating reduction, a lot of those initial changes, and you're going to start feeling really, really good. So while it may only be 1 out of 3 months progress you're making, it's arguably the most noticeable of the three in the way that you feel and the way that you look.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Am I adding to this or?
Um, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to start with, but what are your thoughts?
I really like how you began this because you're saying, like, don't get into that all or nothing thinking. And what I think you've done a great job of doing is outlining the nothing, the like, oh, what's the point? Let's just throw in the towel, which is what a lot of people do. But then also talking about the fact that, like, all is not the answer either, right? So to say, okay, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, I'm going to eat healthy 100% of the time, and I'm going to do everything possible from now until summer to make progress, it's too much, right? Like, we're past that point of a sustainable change to see the results that you want, but doing the all is going to create burnout and unsustainability. You also might feel, when you realize 2 days in, I can't keep this pace up or I can't keep this consistency up, you get to that nothing point again of wanting to throw in the towel. So we really are asking you to find that middle ground to do the most you can, but not all is not the most.
Totally. And I'm okay with people pushing hard. Like I know people here are messaging a lot where it's like sustainable, sustainable, sustainable. Like sustainable is doing the most you can without crashing, without falling off track, without burning out. And so for different people, that means something entirely different. You there's a good chance when you're hyper motivated with a month before summer that we can push you harder than you're going to be able to push in 3 months from now. You might be able to really push during this first month and see a lot of change. But I promise you, there is too much. There is a level of too much where it's going to have a negative impact on your progress because you're going to fall off, or you're going to get injured, or you're going to burn out.
Mm. Cool. Yeah, so I'm curious, like, where, if we're talking about where to start to get the most impact, saying it's not too late, where would you advise someone to begin?
Um, hire a coach. No,
Uh-huh.
no. I mean, yes, for real, but no. If you want to get started today, we've got we've got limited time to make change. Then you first of all you need to set your BAMs. So set your bare ass minimums. What is the least I can commit to keep moving forward even on my worst days. So like set the bare ass minimum for your worst days first of all. Um because that's gonna keep you moving forward. That's gonna hold you to some sort of a plan because it's really easy to set your optimals like, okay, I'm gonna get to the gym 4 days a week. I'm gonna eat very clean. I want you challenging yourself on your worst days. And then once you've decided what those BAMs are and what they're gonna look like and that you've set them realistically, then you can decide how hard you're ready, willing, and able to push for the remainder of the time. Um, but having those BAMs as your fallback is really, really important because if you are gonna push a little bit too hard in the beginning, you need something to fall back on to avoid the all or nothing because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get injured, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna have a vacation or some random schedule change, and it's gonna be really easy to say, ah crap, I can't keep up with all these goals and outlines I set for myself. So set the BAMs before you set the norms, if you will.
Love that.
If we're talking making physical change before summer, a lot of that's going to come from nutrition. If we're talking about making changes to the way we're feeling and our energy and the way that we show up, then a lot of that's going to come from exercise. And so finding a healthy balance between the two at this point is going to really, really help you optimize what time we do have left before summer. I think that they both complement each other very well. So we should be looking at what we are ready, willing, and able to commit to in both of those two categories. But once again, like remembering that we can't out-train a bad diet, or the goal isn't just to add exercise, add exercise, add exercise, add exercise to make faster progress, because it's not going to end up working well for you. So it's finding a level of exercise that you could realistically stick to long term, and then complementing that with your nutrition. Make sense?
Yeah, beautiful. I actually really like that you broke this down in terms of getting people to think about the type of progress that they want to make before summer, because I know a lot of people who are just sort of, average healthy. They're maybe not necessarily looking to lose weight, but they want to be in a certain condition for their sports and activities for summer, in which case you're talking about like setting that band for movement and working at incrementally, increasing what you're capable of doing to be ready for your sports versus someone who actually wants to see some transformation within the body themselves or itself and lose weight. Nutrition is going to be that number one, bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I mean they obviously go hand in hand. They complement one another, but you know the way you feel after a workout. You know the way you feel when you start exercising regularly. You feel more energetic, you feel more lively and vibrant. Like that's a huge part of what comes with exercise. Um, Complementing that with proper nutrition is an amplifier. It makes it exponentially more so, or exponentially less if we're eating like shit. Now if we do want to change our body composition by summer, like you're not going to do that without tackling your nutrition.
Mhm.
So I think I got to look at this from two different perspectives. So there's I think a lot of people at this point are like, I want to make quick progress.
Mhm.
So if you want to make quick progress, I guess for either of these two people, the person who wants to make quick progress and the person who's okay with making a little bit slower, more sustainable progress, what I would encourage you to do is just start with a food log for yourself. Write out everything that you're eating on a day-to-day basis. Um, it doesn't need to be, it could be as specific as you want it to be, I guess. You don't really need to weigh and measure things for this to work. But start doing this on a day-to-day basis, and then once you've done it for like 3 to 5 days, look at it and decide where you think you should start making change, or what sticks out to you as the low-hanging fruit and what you should change from a nutrition standpoint. I think this is the easiest way for people to make nutrition changes because any one of us could sit down and very easily identify what we should be doing. We should be eating more protein, more fruits, more vegetables, less junk food, like less alcohol. Like those are simple things. But when you actually write out what you are eating on a day-to-day basis, you can start to recognize patterns and you can start to see likely what is holding you back from your goals. So do that to begin. Um, and then decide what you want to add or remove for starters. It's really hard for me to say exactly how hard somebody's willing to push or give you advice because without sitting down and working with you, it's hard for me to know how hard we can push you, obviously. But that should give you some insight on a safe place to start anyways. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like that you brought up food log just as a tool to implement right away to be able to have a visual to see, okay, where do I know intuitively that changes need to be made? And I'll challenge people and maybe you a little bit as well, where, yeah, it's obvious to you that proteins, fruits, and vegetables need to be prioritized. I think there's a large amount of people that still don't know that. And they immediately see a food log and think, oh, I'm eating too much bread, I'm eating too much carbs. And the intent or the decision is remove. What
Mm,
can I get rid of? What can I remove? How can I eat less calories? And in fact, what we would encourage is where can we add more proteins, fruits, and vegetables? And not just more, but how can I prioritize them? How can I make sure I'm filling up on them first before I'm reaching for the crackers and cheese, before I'm reaching for the toast or the egg or the English muffin or something like that, right? So don't let the inclination be to remove something because weight loss or fat loss is your intent. How can we actually add the things that are going to be helping us on that journey?
yeah, that's a great approach to look at where we can add instead of where we can remove because inherently, like if you're like, oh, these 3 meals I didn't have any fruits or vegetables, and you start adding fruits or vegetables, you're just naturally going to eat less of the calorie dense foods. You might have one slice of toast instead of two slices of toast, and you trade that out for a bowl of blueberries, and all of a sudden you've created an extra calorie gain for yourself as a result. In terms of calories, if you're doing this on your own, you're basically you need to track, because we can't manage what we don't measure. So you need a way to track and measure. In Breaking 90, we use a point system to track and measure our nutrition intake. Um, you can do it with a food log on a day-to-day basis. Chances are you're not going to food log forever. You can do it with macro counting, or calorie counting. If you're starting out calorie counting for the first time, like get an app that makes it really easy. There's apps out there like MyFitnessPal that you can actually input your foods and it'll track all the calories for you. We can use a calculator. Like most people, if you're trying for fat loss, taking your weight, minus about 15 pounds, if that's your goal. If it's any more than that, it kind of skews this formula. So say you're 200 pounds, then I would take 185 pounds and multiply it by 13. And that's where I'd start for your calorie goal. Now, that it's impossible for me to tell you whether or not that's going to work, because there's way too many factors for a formula to just safely identify that. But that is your starting goal. And then after a week or two of trying that, if we see things progressing well, great, keep it the same. If they're not progressing well, then we can shave it back a little bit more. Or if they're progressing too fast and you're feeling low on energy, not recovering well, then you can add a little bit more calories. But you need a starting point. And if you had all the time in the world, then what I would encourage you to do is just start inputting your norms and slowly start shaving that back, as opposed to starting with a calorie goal, because that calorie goal, like I said, it comes from a formula. It can't give us a very accurate measure. What you're actually eating right now is your best measurement. What you eat on a day-to-day basis, minus about 5 to 10%, would be a great place for you to start.
Oh, that's great. I think, you know what, and I'm not sure if you had more to add, but I think that's a really great place for people to start, because if you're listening to this and you're like, oh shit, yeah, like what am I gonna do? There's very little time left. We don't want to ask you to do too much, right? We don't want you to do too much all at once. But this sort of gives you an idea of where to start in terms of calories, to set your BAMs, and to know whether or not you need to focus on nutrition or movement for your specific transformation.
Yeah. So just to recap, like 5 to 10% less calories than you're consuming on a day-to-day basis. Look for any and all opportunities to increase protein, fruits and vegetables, and water. Um, and then adding a manageable amount of movement, an amount of movement that isn't going to burn you out, that you realistically could stick to even beyond this month. If you're like, oh, I can grind this out for this month, then it's too much. You're picking an amount of exercise that you're like, yeah, I could probably do this most weeks for the rest of my life. That's where you should be looking for exercise. If you do that, you're going to see amazing, amazing changes. And like I said, it's okay to push a little bit harder for short stints, but we have to have a reverse diet plan and a reverse action plan to get us back to sustainable. If you are going to push a little bit harder for this next month, you can't just grind it out for 28 days, be like, oh, thank God I'm done, because you're just going to go off the rails after 28 days. You're going to regain a bunch of that bloat. You're going to start feeling like shit again. And then right in the middle of summer, you're going to be way worse off. That's not the goal, right? So the goal is to give yourself a kickstart, feel great, head into summer, and continue to feel great. So if you are going to push hard, make sure whatever plan you have has an action plan to get you back to your norm, back to sustainable after that hard push.
That's awesome. Thanks for adding that.
Cool. I don't think I have anything else to add. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think hopefully very digestible. People feel like they've got a way forward and know how to put one foot in front of the other after today's show.
Awesome. Well, do you have a closing tip?
Yeah, and it actually kind of goes well with everything that we just talked about in the show is I really like equipping people with good, healthy, reflective questions to sort of check in. And I wanted to encourage everyone to ask themselves, what is within my control? So if it is, you're thinking about your weight loss journey and not knowing where to start, asking yourself what is within my control is going to allow you to know what that next step could be. And it's any one of the things, Alex and I have just talked about. And this can go translate into other things within life as well, whether it's conflict resolution, decision making that you've got to do in your career and your family. What's within my control? Focus on that. That'll keep you feeling really empowered. It's when we focus on all the things that are outside of our control that we start to spiral.
Love it.
Cool.
Okay, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope you got some good actionable takeaways from this episode. Do us a huge favor wherever you are listening, take a screenshot, share it to Instagram, and tag at Breaking 90 Fitness so we can see all of you beautiful listeners and where you're at. Thanks. Have a great day.